Oh man, I'm so excited about tonight. I know I say that every time, but I'm really excited, folks. Thanks for tuning into the Frenzy. All you Frenzy knots that are already in the chat, so excited that you're here for this tonight. It's a big deal for me because I've always been a fan of the Legends of Grayskull podcast, as many of you know. That's part of the reason why Shawn is a co-host on the Frenzy. Whatever I can do to selfishly get all these guys to talk about the things that I want them to talk about. Or let me rephrase that. The things that we all want to talk about. How about that? I'm not trying to be Lex Luthor here. I also, haven't had a chance to really chat with Curtis. And so it's really great to have you here, Curtis. And it'll be good to talk to the Dooch. And Matt is coming in. He did message us. He said he's on his way. And also Adam, Battle Ram Blog Adam, he's on his way too. It is the middle of the week. It is really hot. And we all got families and stuff, so totally understandable. But hopefully they'll be able to pop in soon.
Mm-hmm. Don't make excuses for the Dooch. He's just being the Dooch.
Yeah. So, he sent
a
picture and he was like getting out of the shower, which I thought was really strange. So this is first, before we do a little round table and talk about everybody and why we're here. For those of you who don't know Shawn, that's crazy. For those of you that aren't familiar with Curtis yet, that's also crazy. So, but we will do a little roundtable, and let's say hello to the folks that are in the chat. On our U83, great to see you here. Jeff Evans, great to see you. Hi, hello, howdy. Skelevator, great to see you.
Pulling double duty in the chat and on screen.
That's right. Duchess of Darkness, great to see you. Fantastic to see you as always. Ray Black, great to see you. I'm at 1% and I'm out stopping by to say hi. Okay, understand. And Nolan, great to see you. As Oz would say, if Oz was here, he'd say it wouldn't be a toy streaming thing without Nolan here. Sorry, Oz, I couldn't do it as good as you. And then Nolan is saying hello to folks. And also, folks, Bobby won't be able to be here tonight. He's feeling a little under the weather. And Oz is traveling. For those of you that are, friends and fans of Oz, you know that he's at Joe Fest right now, right? So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to hear how that trip goes. Have either of you guys ever been to a Joe Fest?
No. I'm going to Joe Lanta in September, which is not quite the same, but it is a little bit of the same vibe, relatively same place. But no, not Joe Fest itself.
I keep waiting for a Dreadnoks Fest, and then I'll show up for that.
Yeah, down in the bayou.
Down in the bayou, that'd be amazing.
That'd be sweet.
All right, so we'll do this quick because I know how. Whenever I'm put on the spot like this, I never want it to last for a long time. But
you can't put time limits on me.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I like that.
This is true.
So,
me too, though.
Yeah. And so, for those of you who don't know, Shawn, why don't you just tell them about you and what you're all about, why you're here.
I'm Shawn, and I lost a bet, and I had to shave my head at 21. And I'm here because Skelevator is nice enough to invite me every week, or every time they do one, and that's part of it. I'm also here because of my love for Masters of the Universe, which that kind of gives you the admission in the door to come on the show, I think.
Yeah, it's a prerequisite for sure.
It's a prerequisite, and at least when you see the soapbox. And you're like, there, you can go over there and talk now. You jump on it. You're one of those people, you jump on it. You don't just, slowly walk up to that soapbox because you have something to say about it. Been into it since, I was probably 4 years old, maybe. I want to say 3, maybe. And I never, it's like it ebbs and flows. When I was a kid, it was probably one of my biggest favorites. And then in my 20s, it came back as a 2000X. And in my 30s, it came back because I got a second kid and I decided to go completely man-child and revert to my old ways. And that's what got me into classics. It got me into the toy community. And it got me in the door here. So there you go.
It sounds about right. Now, Curtis, you have quite an online presence now, which is very cool. I was just, before we started talking today, I was talking to you about the video just posted today. Why don't you tell folks about what you do and why why would we want to be talking about Masters of the Universe today?
Well, it's always hard when folks say, well, where can people find you? And it's like, I don't know, everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, just turn on YouTube any day of the week and you're probably going to find me somewhere. I'm on a lot of different shows of like other people's stuff. You know, I'm on Shooting the Shelf with Jesse on Sundays, Off-World with the gang on Fridays, various other things during the week. But I did, you know, earlier this year, I created my own channel, which is Art by Ackerman. And it's really mostly about customizing action figures. I've started to incorporate, like you were talking about, some of the toy hunts because I've been traveling a lot for work and I was getting discouraged because I wasn't able to have time to create new stuff for the channel. And something that I've done, you know, since I've been an adult, I guess, is anytime that I have to travel for work, I always get myself a toy because when I was traveling as a kid with my parents, it would be me and my sister in the car for hours and hours. And as long as we didn't kill each other, when we got to our destination, my parents would get us a toy. And so it's just kind of ingrained in me, like if I'm going somewhere, I need to get a toy. That's my reward for being good. So I do this anyway. And I was like, hey, I'm going to start filming this and just put it out there, see if anybody's interested. And lo and behold, people have been. It's been getting a hell of a response. So that's, you know, my channel is mostly customizing with some of that toy hunt stuff. But like I said, I'm on a lot of other people's channels too. And then as far as, you know, master stuff, you know, just huge love as a kid, like you guys. And I'm going to pinpoint it to a really weird thing that probably, as much as you've talked to a lot of folks with masters, I'm guessing that you haven't heard what I'm going to tell you as far as what brought me into masters, what the main thing is. The shoulders. So
interesting.
So Masters came out about the same time as Rocky 3. And there's a scene in Rocky 3 where Rocky's training with Apollo. They're running down the beach and they've got just like these like really defined shoulders, right? Yeah. And it's the slow motion running down the beach. And I always was like, man, like those shoulders, like their big shoulder, they look awesome, right? And the toys that we had at the time were, you know, a lot of 3 3/4, a lot of, you know, skinny, you know, you had some 5 points of articulation, this kind of thing. And then all of a sudden you get the Masters and you look at it and just the muscle definition in the shoulders. I was like, this is for me. Like, this is not those little skinny, you know, things that you drop them on the floor one time and it breaks. Like, these things are just chunky beast.
Yeah.
And I loved it. So yeah,
well,
shoulders.
Here's I was at somebody's yard sale a couple weeks back. Nice. I got this Rambo.
I've got one in the garage.
Yeah, all his hair's gone. But these shoulders, it's like when you see Sylvester Stallone in those early movies, you see Arnold Schwarzenegger in those early movies, and Carl Weathers, and the definition of their muscles was so otherworldly. And even toys like this, where they could have over exaggerated it, they were playing it down. And this came out around the same time as Masters, I think.
I think that was a couple years later.
Yeah, so this is
85 or 86, maybe.
Yeah, Rocky. I know Rocky 3 was 82, and that's, you know, pretty much when I got into Masters. But
it says 85.
Yeah,
I mean, you'd think they would just like give Stallone and Schwarzenegger toys, just like Masters muscles, right?
Right.
Because that's what, we were watching the Barbarian movies, and we've got to have some crazy big muscle toys. And yeah, it was about the muscles for me too, for sure. But I haven't heard that particular thing. Shoulders.
Well, and that's why, like, now, so I'll get on Oz's show on Saturdays, right? And those guys love to talk Masters.
Yeah.
But they talk a lot about Origins, and I'm like,
yeah.
If Origins came out when I was a kid, I would love it. But now it's all about Mondo for me, right? Because when I hold a Mondo in my hand, the proportionality of it is similar to when I was holding a regular vintage figure in my hand as a kid.
Yeah.
I need that like big chunky bolt, so like Origins just doesn't do it for me anymore. Like I need the big stuff.
I mean, the reason why I'm okay with Origins is because of the vintage figures.
Yeah.
If the vintage figures were never the thing that got me into Masters, then I would probably pass up the Origins on the shelf. But it was, but I get it. Like, why not up the ante a little bit? If you're going to collect, why get something similar that's not, and honestly, and I don't mean anything negative here by saying this. It's all about the vintage figures for me. So Origins tries that they don't quite get it. They don't quite achieve the same resonance that the vintage figures have. The Mondo figures, if I had the cash, I'd be getting them left and right, but because they are art.
I think where Origin really succeeds though is their box art. Like the packaging on Origins is amazing. And for a while there, I was collecting them, and I was just keeping them in package because the box art was so good.
Yeah.
But then once, I skipped the first two Mondos because I really wasn't a fan of that first original He-Man that they put out. And the Skeletor seemed like it had a little bit too elongated of a head or something. Yep. But then all of a sudden they started coming out with like Merman and Man-at-Arms, and they like really started hitting their stride. And then they, got bought out by Funko, and all of a sudden, like we got Trapjaw and Beastman, and like as the line has continued, it's just gotten better and better.
Yeah.
And so if Mondo didn't exist, I probably would be all in on Origins, but because it does, I'm like, that's the line for me, and I'm good.
Save your cash and save it for something for that art piece. Like, I'm a little mad at Mattel right now because they've started so many lines in the Masters of the Universe line. So now we've got the vintage collection Masterverse figures, and that both the Skeletor and the Faker that I've seen are great. I kind of wish they would have started the Masterverse figures with New Eternia and with the vintage collection, so that they could be like your choice, something that looks a little bit more like the vintage design and color scheme, or something that takes inspiration from all the different iterations.
I have kind of a hate relationship with Mattel, because I felt so abandoned by them. Like when they were doing classics, and then they got the DC license, right? And they were like, hey, we're doing the DC stuff now. That's where we're putting our energy. We really don't care about Masters. And they pawned it off on Super 7. And those first couple, years of Super 7 were a little rough. You had the really shiny faces, and they couldn't get the sculpts right and stuff. And then just as they're starting to hit their stride, then Mattel loses the DC license, and they're like, oh crap, we got to put something on the shelves. Oh, we're going to take Masters back, right? Yeah. And as a fan of Masters, to me, it's like, okay, so we weren't good enough for you when you had DC, but now that you lost DC, it's like that girlfriend that leaves you for another guy, right? And then all of a sudden he dumps her, and she comes back to you. Like, no, you left. You went. That's
a good analogy,
right?
Yeah.
And then they come back and they don't continue classics. They're like, well, we're going to put out something completely new. We don't care what you've been collecting for the last few years. We're going to give you a whole new scale and do Origins. A bunch of people dump their money into Origins, and then like a year later, then they're like, well, now we're going to start doing these Masterverse. It's like, I just dumped all my money into Origins. Now you're, so then
and
like you're saying, then
multiple different Masterverse lines, and
New Eternia, and
So it's a money grab for sure.
Well, and it makes me wonder what's going to happen next year, because they just got the DC license back starting in 2026.
I'm afraid, maybe the better boyfriend has come along, and now they're going to move.
Yeah,
on
do they dump it
guy.
again, or I know they've got this thing now where it's like the club or whatever, where they may move a lot of it to online, so you don't see it in retail anymore. I don't know. It just they just rub me the wrong way. It's just a very convenient thing for them to just pick up Masters when nothing else is going their way. So.
I'm hesitant to think that. Well, I think a lot is riding on this movie, and that's what's going to happen. And actually, there's a lot at stake right now for DC and for Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
If this Superman movie fails,
you got two universes starting off, right?
Starting off, like, this is an opportunity for like Shawn and I to be, rolling down hills with big smiles on our faces for the rest of our lives if this works out. But like, I
think if one of them goes well, it'll be a good thing. Right?
If one of them,
just hope that at least one of them does well. Right?
If DC does well, we'll be happy. But guess what's going to fall off, just disappear again, is Masters. And if Masters does well and Superman does well, we're going to be in hog heaven. I mean, it's going to be amazing. But I kind of have a feeling that we might just be headed into a wonderful era for DC, but maybe not so much for Masters. But we've had a really good run. I'm trying to be the positive guy always with this stuff. So it's hard for me to look at this pragmatically. But if the Masters movie doesn't do well, and with this, and with the issues with Jared Leto, I mean, I'm worried that it won't go well, and that we'll just enter a new phase of no Masters around. But like I said, we have enough stuff that's out. Like, I will be catching up for the rest of my life. Honestly, I haven't been able to keep up with every Origins release. I haven't been able to keep up with every Masterverse release. So, eBay will be fun for a while, I think.
I think out of the two, I think Superman probably has, or the DC has, a better chance of succeeding, just because I think that people will go see a superhero movie regardless if they care of that superhero, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Masters, you're going to have your diehards to go watch it, but what's going to make the other people that aren't diehards, that didn't grow up with this stuff, what's going to make them go see it? And I kind of equate it back to the Warcraft movie that came out. I loved World of Warcraft. I met my wife on World of Warcraft.
That's
great,
cool.
Great video game. And I thought the movie was done pretty well. I think there's more interesting stories they could tell, but they tried to start at the beginning. And the problem with starting at the beginning is it's not your best material, right? It's so if you're only going to get one shot at this, like, you really need to put your best foot forward. And they didn't do that. They tried to, they were looking at, okay, well, this is going to be the beginning, and then we're going to get 5, 6, 7 movies after it. But you didn't. You only got one, and the one that you put out wasn't your best stuff. So, I think even if the Masters movie does well, I don't know. I think it's going to do well with us. I don't think it's going to pull in all those other folks. It's going to be very hard. And it's probably going to have a low opening weekend, because it's just going to be the diehards, and it's going to be up to whether the movie's good or not to pull in all those extra folks. So
this is a good one, Bobby. Bobby is here, but at it from a distance, and of course making his quips, which we all love. Here's the thing, though. I didn't think that the Barbie movie would do well. I thought there were things working that I was excited about with the Barbie movie. I know on this show I've talked about the Barbie movie a lot. I love the movie. I think it's very, very well done, for a variety of reasons. But, I was already a fan of the director, and I thought, this director doing this big high production movie, may not work for most, like for a large audience. She's,
Mhm.
you know, she's an amazing director, but maybe her audience is too niche. I was a little worried about that. Everyone who doesn't love Barbie, but also who doesn't have, you know, who you know is this going to be catering to a particular kind of audience? And I had all those worries. I'm worried about a barbarian movie today
Mhm.
because of the world that we're in right now.
Mhm.
People may not be interested in, as they say, uh,
Super macho, yeah.
shiny the shoulders that you're
Yeah.
talking about, and the glossy thighs, and
Mhm.
the men with the shaved armpits and stuff like that. Like, you know, I'm not sure if people will be into that, but at the same time, like, I was totally wrong about the Barbie movie. I thought it wouldn't do great, and it just people gobbled it up, and
I
it's
I
you
think
know.
the difference though, Barbie is way more well known than He-Man. All right, as much as I hate to admit that, like Barbie is known worldwide more than He-Man. And there's
Yeah.
also a certain campiness that was around that movie that you knew it was going to be like this comedy that was going to be kind of funny and stuff. With this, I mean, all indications are this is going to be a pretty serious movie, right? So you won't get that kind of we're just going in to have a few laughs crowd, right? Because you know, presumably there's not going to be too many laughs unless it's like a one-liner here or there.
Well, I don't
So,
know. I think that there's going to be some tongue-in-cheek stuff happening
you
with
think?
this He-Man movie, and if they don't do that, they'll be making a big mistake, because that's how you make a barbarian movie work. You got this kid from Earth. He's showing up. He suddenly
Mm.
has a Tila comes and gets him from Earth, and he's given a sword, and he has to go to this crazy planet. And if they don't have him, if the audience doesn't get to experience this oddball place through his eyes,
Mm.
as if we are suddenly on this planet, like, I'm sorry, but if I woke up and I was suddenly on a planet with purple skies and skies out, thighs out, I would be like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Spaceships and wizards, like, that's crazy. So there's got to be some of that tongue-in-cheek humor. Honor you is saying, so what you're saying is don't hold your breath for a sequel in the Horde and the Snake Man.
I wouldn't.
Well, I'm not going to hold my breath for Snake Man just because I would rather not go there.
Yep.
But I'd like to see the Horde eventually.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be hard to make the big group of people happy, because I think that a lot of your He-Man fans are wanting something more kind of Lord of the Rings. And I think your average just like go to the movie theater folk that are not maybe into He-Man are probably hoping for something more like Guardians of the Galaxy. Right? So, you know, some music, some laughs, this and that. But I think your He-Man fans really want something epic. Like we've been promised a movie now for what, 20 years, and it's almost been like this running joke that they keep saying that, well, new casting and all this and that, and then it just falls through. So this is the first time that it actually feels like it's going to happen. So it may be the only time in our lifetime that we get a chance like this. So
I do want a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy in this movie.
I wouldn't be upset with that.
But I also want there to be some moments where, you know, we've talked about this a lot on the Frenzy. Hey, Adam, everybody.
Hey,
Adam's
guys. Sorry I'm late.
That's all right. We've talked about this a little bit, and I know, Shawn, I know you have a lot to say about this too, but there's got to be some stakes. If you're going to have some Guardians of the Galaxy things, that means you have to also bring with the humor some stakes. And that's why the Guardians of the Galaxy's movies work.
As long as stakes doesn't just mean killing people for no reason.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Right?
That's a big problem. Yeah.
You can create emotion without killing characters off. And I think that Guardians did a really good job of making you care for these like lovable losers that, you know, you may not have known at all before going into those movies. So
yeah, exactly. John is here. Welcome, John. Yes, it's gonna be awesome. Going to watch it anyways. whether it's a flop or it fails in our expectations of it, we're all gonna see it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And you know what? It'll give us, even if it doesn't quite reach our expectations, we've forgiven the 87 movie. You know, we've a lot of us have. A lot of us have forgiven the whole second season of the 2000X series for delving into Snakeman territory a bit too much. Some of us have forgiven Revolution.
I could never forgive New Adventures though.
I
can't even make it through 3 episodes.
I know that Adam and I share this feeling. I know for sure. The thing that saves New Adventures are the action figures of the villains.
The characters that they created is awesome.
Yeah.
The show was atrocious.
The heroes are boring. They put me to sleep. Even the toy versions of them, but the action figures of the villains are fantastic. I tried. So my wife she's okay with me watching Filmation from start to finish. She-Ra or He-Man, she's cool with it. I tried to get us to watch New Adventures. We got 2 episodes in. I just, it's not, the show is just not good. I have a hard time with the animation. Is pretty cool sometimes, like the spaceships. But I can't. That's not gonna carry me through.
It's rough.
You watched 2 episodes, she slid divorce papers over to you.
Yep.
Exactly. I look over, she's not there anymore. She's in the living room. There are things that I think diehard fans will always forgive Masters for. But there's always something that saves it, at least for me. I'm always like, well, yeah, but yeah, I mean, Curtis, when you're on, hopefully Matt will pop in so we can talk to Matt about this too. But when I just listened to your newest Legends of Grayskul podcast episode, where you and he were talking about the Council of Evil Part 2, and you mentioned this like in that episode. I think maybe it's the previous one, but you and he both agreed like. It only works if somebody dies off that's a beloved character, if you're catering to a particular person, 35 and up. And that made a lot of us angry when we saw Fisto get killed so early on.
Yep.
But there's a place for that, I guess. But you can't kill off. I mean,
their death has to have meaning.
Their death has to have meaning.
Do it to do it, and then say, "Look, we're playing with stakes." Like that's not stakes.
Those are false stakes.
That's manipulation.
Those are false stakes. Yeah. Exactly. When I say stakes, I need to like when is it Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or 3 when the animals are being tortured?
That's
3.
Yeah.
I'm like. Even though some of those characters are new to me in that movie, I know Rocket. So the stakes are available to me in a very real way because I love one character and I love animals, and so I have this connection immediately. But so we have to have that connection.
A perfect case in point in this. I'm not trying to make. I'm not trying to make Curtis cry or anything.
I know exactly where you're going.
Volume 2, Guardians of the Galaxy. He might have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy, and all that.
Okay,
with Yondu.
I need to just be.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I've never really talked about this on the Frenzy or on my channel at all, but my daughters are my stepdaughters. When I saw that line. When he said that line, it broke me. I'm getting choked up right now.
I bawl every time. Sometimes if I'm just having a rough go and I need a good cry, I'll put on Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I'm not afraid to admit I bawl every single time. You can take your Tony Stark deaths and your Black Widow and all this and that. The one that gets me is Yondu every single time.
In fact,
it's a character that you really kind of shouldn't like, right? Like he's kind of a jerk through 2 movies, And then towards the end of that movie, you're like, wow, like he actually does care and he is a good person. And, you know, and then all of a sudden all that happens and then the funeral and stuff. And it's just like, dude, I'm waterworks.
Yondu is I've gotten rid of a lot of my toys that I've collected over the recent 5-6 years that I've been collecting more seriously. And I started out being really enthusiastic about the Marvel action figures, but Yondu's the one I haven't gotten rid of.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he'll always have a special place on my shelf because of what James Gunn did for us all with that character.
The writing, and then I think what James Gunn does so well is the combination of writing and music, right? Like Shawn and I have talked about this, but like that Cat Stevens song starts playing.
Oh God!
And it's like,
come on,
like, dude, if I just hear it on the radio, like a couple notes into it, I'm like, gone.
I mean, almost all the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtracks from the first and the second movie are on my youngest daughter's playlist, and she's like, she's super cool now. She's listening to things like I've never heard of. She's got her finger on the pulse, and she's awesome. But she's still like those soundtracks. They are like on her playlist of those songs, and they're also good. But yeah, that Cat Stevens one. I've been a fan of Cat Stevens my whole life, and hearing that used in such a powerful way. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Anyways, before we all start crying,
sorry, I warned you though. I knew that was gonna be a trigger for Curtis and then also for me, but I didn't get into it, so I'm the dry eye in the house, I guess.
Yeah, well, you picked a really great moment in superhero cinema history where like we get to we care for a character that's complicated. And there have been a lot of moments like that where superhero films have tried to do that and not done it quite that successfully. But I feel like
makes that ultimate sacrifice, right? Yeah. Which felt so out of character for him.
I know that. Yeah.
Look who's here.
Oh, yes. How's it going, guys? Payroll doesn't go.
Hey, nice portrait, Boom Boomer.
Right, I can't hear much of what's going on, but me and a couple of guys wanted to say, hey, while we're here.
Hey, all right.
Say hi to the people. What's up?
Right. Yeah, fantastic.
Lawrence, say hi to the people. Hi.
All right.
Oh man, our ratings just went through the roof.
It's the Frenzy crew.
How you doing? All right. Look, we went from 11 viewers to 12 just now.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. I added 2 people. I was from Funk Wave and High. He added 2 people. Gave us a big boost. The money back.
It looks like you're having a good time over there, buddy.
We are. Finally all made it down here to Augusta, hanging out with everybody, having a good time.
That's fantastic. We were just talking about Joe Fest, and I think I would go if it was actually Dreadnoks Fest. Just
literally, like I said, we've been for 4 or 5. Dreadnoks. I'd be down for it. I'd go.
Yeah.
I'd be wearing chaps and all. It'd be perfect.
Nice. Let's make it happen.
All right, guys. My battery's almost dead, so I got to jump off. But I did want to jump in and say hi. Love you guys. I'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
Great day.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
They're having fun.
They're having a blast.
He's just gonna stay there.
I know.
He just froze and he's gonna be stuck there the whole episode.
See how excited people get? Look at that. Oz. That's awesome. Now where were we? What were we talking about?
Deaths that have meaning. Talking about that like Yondu makes this sacrifice, and it wasn't just killing a character to kill a character. Like you spent 2 full movies building up who he is, expecting him not to make that sacrifice, and then he does, and it just hits you like ton of bricks.
Yeah. I want to. If the Masters of the Universe movie ends up killing somebody off, or if in another iteration of Masters with a new cartoon or whatever, new comic books, I know there's a new comic coming out. If somebody has to go, please make it meaningful.
Yeah.
And this is interesting to me too, because I think there have been some moments in Kevin Smith's movies where he's been able to create that feeling of caring for characters that are not so great, or even side characters. The audience still cares for them. He's always, he's always trying to develop characters that are realistic and believable. So for him to off Fisto, or the writer writing with him maybe to have off Fisto so early on, not giving us a chance to care for this beloved character, that was kind of hurtful. Yeah, and the only moment where he gets to shine is that, joke about fisting. Like, that's rough for such a beloved character.
Well, honestly, I go to this one too more than a few times, but for my money for childhood, it was always Transformers the movie.
Ugh.
Like when you watch that movie,
oh yeah, that's a good example.
All of those robots dying, and you're just sitting there going, my entire toy collection is null and void, but oh my god, I'm tearing up watching Optimus go gray, and he's
oh, that's rough. That is rough.
And that's the end of it, and
what were they thinking? Can I just ask you guys, what were they thinking?
They were thinking they wanted to sell the next version of toys. Yeah.
The new toy line, apparently. That's what I've always heard. And they did not know how effective the cartoon and the toys were for the kids. They thought it was just, we could throw it out the window and they'll just buy the next wave or whatever. But when you kill off Prime, you're automatically killing off the father-like figure for a lot of kids in the 80s.
I don't think they realized the connection that people had with the characters. They just thought it was, it was just a mechanism for them to sell toys. And if we kill off these, now we can bring in new ones and we can sell more figures.
Yeah.
And I think what they found out is we'd rather have more versions of Prime. Right? Like give us other, like if you're going to put out new toys, that's fine. But like, give us new versions of that or new characters to build around it. But don't just they just murdered a lot of them. And early on in the movie too, right? It's not even like it's, the end of the movie and it's like really early on and you're like, man, I still got to watch the rest of this.
Yeah. The first third of the movie is pretty much everybody getting ganked. And then the last 2/3 of the movie is Unicron and Bawit Grana Wheat Ninibon and you got the touch basically.
Yeah, and then they turned a cool sports car into a station wagon. Like what?
Here we go again. I knew he was going to do this. I still don't mind that moment compared to half the other stuff in that. It didn't bother me nearly that much. But yes, and I am one of those hot rod apologists. It's like, no, if Prime wasn't speechifying, there would have been no problem in that moment. And unfortunately, he had to do. I thought you were made of sterner stuff. Oh no, just gank him, dude. Just be done with it. Come on. Like when I was a kid watching that, I remember going, "Oh, this is it. He's throwing down." And then when he's standing there and he's holding the gun, but he doesn't do it. As a kid, even I was like, "We're doing this? What are we doing?"
Shawn, what would Superman do? Would he kill the bad guy? Come on.
I know. But here's the difference.
It depends on which version of Superman.
Well, yeah, if you get Henry Cavill, he's going to just twist everybody's neck through all the Decepticon army, and that's the end of that, and we're good. Homelander will be there going, yay! I don't know. But, if you have Christopher Reeve, it's what about the people? What about you're killing the civilians and all that kind of stuff? But Prime is a soldier. Yeah. He literally says that at points. It's like he believes a sentient life is should be free and all that, and he believes in protecting it. But at the end of the day, he has to sometimes kill the things that are trying to destroy the sentient life.
Yeah. So
in that way, I'm like, Superman would try to find the other option. Prime would probably blast them eventually, but he gave them a little bit of time before he blasts them.
Yeah, there's a lot riding on the future for things that we love, and it's I'm trying to just sort of ride the wave, hope that something interesting comes out of it. If we get a new, like, if we get a new movie that is weird enough that it can have a cult following in the future, or it's bad enough that it can have a cult following in the future, I'm cool with that too. If it's super weird and it's out of left field, and if it's like Sharknado weird and just like bad acting and all that stuff, I might find a way to love it in the future, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for me.
What's your best case scenario for the movie? What is it? It just, this is the best way it could have gone.
The best case scenario is for me, and then I want to actually, Curtis, that's a great question. I'd love to hear Shawn and Adam too answer this, and you as well. For me, at least, it's if the movie treats itself like the pop culture thing that Masters of the Universe is, like the Barbie movie did. I'm sorry to bring up Barbie again, but that's what I'm hoping that DC movies do from here on out. Don't try to reinvent something that already works, right? You can darken something that already works, sure. And sometimes that works. 89 Batman, one of my favorite movies of all time. Mm-hmm. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first movie, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Good man.
Love it.
It works but the colors are still there. The vibrancy of the characters are still there. So if Barbie can do it, if Superman succeeds in doing that, being true to the DC universe as opposed to trying to change it up, Batman shooting everybody with cannons from his Batmobile, I'm sorry, that's not my Batman. So if we can have something that appreciates, maybe even makes fun of slightly, or and takes itself seriously enough for us to be kind of like, well, that's something I didn't expect, then I'll be happy. That's a big ask, though. Mm-hmm. Shawn, Adam, how about you guys?
I'll let Adam go because I've already ranted a little bit so far.
Yeah. I mean, for me, we kind of know the plot. So within that, I want likable characters, compelling characters. Mm-hmm. Mentioned stakes, does need to have stakes, which it just means there has to be a reason why we care, why they're trying to do X. There has to be something involved. It can't just. So it's basically within the framework that we already know is there. Do it smart. Make us care about the characters, and make us care about what they're doing. And I think if they do that, then it'll be successful.
And we can care even if it's self-referential or making fun of itself. We can care. It's been proven to work.
Yeah, humor's. I'm all for some humor. Like get some, a mix of real stakes and humor. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy formula, or even it probably won't be that funny, but somewhere in that area.
Somewhere in that area, yeah. If Skeletor looks like Skeletor, I'm good. Yes, in fact, this is something that I've been thinking about. There has to be a little green on that yellow skull. And also, yes, the skull should be yellowish. I mean, if it's just a bone skull, that's not going to be that interesting to me. There's got to be some color there.
So this is why I kind of cringed a bit when you said, we forgive the 87 movie. I can accept the 87 movie for what it is. I can appreciate it from a certain aspect. There you go, yeah. But I will never forgive William Stout. The interview that he did on the documentary about where he says that Mattel wanted him to make the characters in the movie look like the figures, and he said, we don't want them to look like the figures. We don't want them to look goofy.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you think of the source material, you should not be
You
doing
should
that
not
movie.
be designing.
You are not the person to run that movie. So to me, the best case scenario is that this is run with a certain respect to the source material that shows the fans of this property that you care about it. But at the same time is written in a way that for people that don't know these characters, don't know the backstory, that they can watch this film and it's got good character development. It's got a good story that they can follow along with, to where now maybe you make some new Masters character or Masters fans that takes it into the next generation, right? Because otherwise Masters dies with us, right? As we die, Masters dies. So, you know, if you can reach out to a new crowd with a good story while at the same time showing respect to the source material, to me, that's best case scenario.
And so I think there was a huge sigh of relief in the Masters community when people came back from CinemaCon in Las Vegas and said, we saw images of the characters' costumes and they look like the toys. All of us want that. Like for them to change this, like you can alter things here and there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Tila,
it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1, but you have to respect the source material.
The fact that Tila is wearing gold and white, that made me happy. We've never seen that on film before. And that's just, it's just a simple decision. The fact that Adam's wearing a pink shirt, fuck yeah. Like, of course, you've got to have that, right? And the reveal of the kid playing He-Man. Oh, you know, when somebody overexposed that silhouette of him, and he's basically Mondo He-Man.
Skies out, thighs out.
Skies out, thighs out.
That's
You can
right.
see he's not wearing pants. Like, this is, everyone in this community is breathing a sigh of relief, right?
For, you know, when they did those DC comics, like over like, you know, 10 years ago, almost always they gave He-Man pants, and so it was kind of like the common wisdom. Oh, if they do a movie, they're going to give He-Man pants. They can't do, you know, modern days. People want to see him with pants, but I'm glad they didn't go that way.
Nobody wants to see. Everyone wears pants, right? Give us something different. I mean, and I think that's like you're right, Adam, and that's like what the corporate mind is saying. Well, if they're wearing, you know, bikini bottoms, we may not sell tickets. In the 80s, if they were wearing bikini bottoms, they would sell tickets. And that was why we got a lot of that, got a lot of the Barbarian movies being basically skin flicks because, you know, they knew it worked for the audience. I think we're mature enough as human beings that we can handle this and appreciate it for what it is.
Well, it's like the Superman, right? Like the rest of us wear our underwear under our pants. Let Superman wear it over his pants.
Or Batman too.
Exactly.
You know what? This new version of Batman that James Gunn is working on right now, he better have his underwear outside of his pants.
There you go.
Because, and don't even try to like, oh, he's doing it because he needs to be different, or you know, he doesn't want to be intimidating. Like, don't try and come up with a reason for it. It's just like, this is this weird costume, and that's, you know, hey, that's what I did with my underoos.
If somebody wants to splice this up, they're going to get some great sound clips tomorrow. I'm just
saying. Well, we got to do that before then so we can get ahead of it.
Shawn, what about you? What is a successful Masters movie look like? What is best case scenario?
Yeah. Best case scenario to me is kind of like what's happening with the Superman one right now, where when the trailers have been coming out for that, I actually have been going onto different YouTube channels and just watching the trailer reactions.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't know why this one is the only one where I'm like, I want to see what other people think, because deep down there is that feeling of he's the big blue Boy Scout, or he's too hopeful, or he represents something that there's too many cynical people out there that don't want to embrace what he represents.
It's what he is.
And a majority of what I've seen are people who are literally either crying because it's affecting them in a way with the music, because when the John Williams score kicks in, there is that nostalgia. It's like you feel like you're a kid again, and you're looking through your kid eyes at something, and it makes you not 40 something looking at this anymore. You're literally like 5 years old again. Yeah. And the main thing to me is Superman was the thing that my mom helped me discover as a kid. He was the first superhero for me. And that's why he never, ever lost style for me. I had my X-Men phase in my teen years, just like everybody else. But then they killed Superman, and I felt like a complete dick for leaving him for the X-Men for how long. But
then he came back with the mullet, and that's the best look.
Well, he did come back with the mullet, yes. Yeah. And honestly, that storyline is still really, really cool. Anyway, even 30 years later. But for me, it's like I am hoping to see what my mind's eye imagine that box art to be in motion, if that's even possible with this. Like, if you want to go to, it's like, I want the Rudy Obrero art to be playing out on the big screen, if that is possible with this movie. I know it's not going to be a 1-to-1, but I also heard they are inspired by that, and they're going to that for a lot of the case scenarios of the visuals they want to represent. If they go there, I think I would probably just be in awe. And I would probably, like, if I was in the theater seeing it, I would probably be grabbing this, my armrest and going, oh my God, it's like, this is what I've always hoped for out of Masters. Because like Curtis said earlier, Lord of the Rings and a lot of these movies that are more fantasy based. Even this past weekend, my family went to go see the live action How to Train Your Dragon, and we're fans of the animated version. And that one actually held up on its own terms. And the thing is, that kind of stuff still has legs for kids, and that's it unlocks the fantasy ideas and it unlocks the creativity and stuff. So it's like, for me, if I can take my son to go see it, because he actually enjoyed the CGI show, and I showed him the photo of the silhouette of He-Man, and I'm like, this is the dude that's going to be He-Man. And then there was a fight choreography video I saw. And I showed him that one, and he's like, what's he doing? I'm like, that's He-Man fighting. And he's like, holy. I'm like, yeah. I mean, it looks like they're going for the jugular with these fights. It looks like they're really wanting to make something that is going to appeal to the older generation, but it's also probably going to wow the younger guys and go, yeah, He-Man isn't full of jokes all the time. This stuff legit was like, it set your mind on fire, and Filmation gave the little punchlines and the jokes here and there. But for the most part, the toy line made your imagination just go insane. Picturing this barbarian versus the Lord of Havoc, the Lord of Destruction on the battlefields of Eternia. That's what I best case scenario was that, and an amazing transformation sequence. Gotta have the amazing transformation sequence.
In terms of vibe for Masters, like we've seen, you've got the mini comics, right? That version's way different than Filmation, which is way different from MYP. Like, is there one of those where you're like, this one I think best would be adapted to a live action? Is there one of those that you're kind of hoping that it mirrors one of those in some way?
I know the answer to this, but I don't know what I have a feeling Shawn and Adam might say the same thing. Let's hear from that first.
Go for it. Let's see what
it's the Rudy Obrero art. That, and in fact, Curtis, you and I were talking about this before we started. The Rudy Obrero's able to accomplish dramatic scenes where the shadows are pronounced, but guess what still shines through? Those colors and the design elements. The absurdity of these characters still shines through, even though it's in this like dramatic, slightly darker environment. What made my imagination, as Shawn said, the toys made our imaginations, would you say, on fire? Put our imaginations on fire. Like, was the fact that this, I'm just going to throw a character out there, that Snout Spout could be taken seriously, right?
Man, I wish
That-
Dooch was here for this part.
I know. Let's check. I'm gonna check to see if we have a message.
He loves his snout spout.
Yep.
He's a huge
Him
snout
and
spout fan.
Cyclone. Those are his. Those are his boys.
I mean, yeah, where Cyclone could be taken seriously, or Snoutspout, or Stinkor could be taken seriously. That's the world that was on the box art of those toys.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that box art is cinematic, and if they can maintain I'm going to use the word absurdity, even though Masters is very normal for me. Like if they can maintain that dramatic realism, along with maintaining the colors, and they have the guts to actually do that on the screen, I have a feeling it will work. And the weird pastel color world that Barbie lived in, I would have never thought that would have been successful on the screen. I would have thought it would have failed, but people loved it. They gobbled it up. They gobbled up the weird, and they should.
Yeah.
Well, the question was the vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like of the story or the imagery you're talking
both
about?
Because I'm kind of like, for me, as far as look, yes, I think like the box art or even the mini comic art, but as far as feel, like I think Filmation, like the way that the characters acted and some of the humor and the way that things played out, and Orko being silly and stuff, like I think some of that would translate to big screen and would maybe draw some people in to have fun that don't know this universe. So I think some of that Filmation silliness would be good. Maybe not 100% Filmation, but a little bit of that in there I think would be a good thing. But yeah, but what do you think, Shawn?
I mean, I think that they're going to have a Filmation inspired by vibe to this, no matter what, because that is the version that most people default wise go to in their minds. I also think, though, from a story perspective, we've said it, and I still think this is going to be case. It's going to probably be a mix of Filmation, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, and the CGI Masters of the Universe on Netflix, because the interaction between the characters on that new show, I think, is more what you're going to see versus, them being a little more stuffy about it, like they were on Filmation at times. Like Filmation, they would joke with each other and stuff, but the way they did it on the other show was like James Gunn's version of Masters, where they would like dig at each other and stuff, and it would feel more natural, in my opinion.
I guess my question to you on that would be, though, like with like Revelation, all that, like that was clearly designed for fans, and like we knew those characters. When they brought a character on screen, they didn't have to explain who this character is and what their background is. With a movie, I'm assuming that they're going to want to draw in people that maybe have never seen Masters before. So how does that play out? Like, do you feel like these are going to be already established characters that just kind of show up and are part of the story? Or do they have to, like, kind of, hey, by the way, this is so-and-so. And like, how do you incorporate that?
Him being a fish out of water character already, because if they start him on Earth and maybe like they protected him by making him live on Earth for some reason, that's at least in the way that I've thought of it. I'm like, maybe Randor and Marlena or the Sorceress was just like, he's too valuable to have here because Skeletor broke the Mystic Wall or something like that. I don't know.
You think maybe it's like a storytelling element to where when they're explaining it to him, they're really explaining it to us?
Yes,
because the thing is, as much I thought of it for a little while leading up to it, and I'm like, Orko could have been that person, but I would not want to have Orko be that person. You need to have one of them, the main character, be that person, because then you're really with them through the story, And if they did Orko the movie, I'm like, you're not getting my money. I'm done. I know that probably hurt Skelly, but I've never been an Orko fanatic. I liked him in Revolution, but for the most part, and I like him on the CGI one too, for the most part. But otherwise, it's like you needed to have Adam be that fish out of water character. And in my opinion, then if you have him being that character, Orko actually would serve well as telling him who all these people are, or Tila being that, or Man at Arms, whoever you want to do, and just him. In my opinion, it would be like, okay, are you going to do a couple main characters and then the rest are kind of off to the sides and they just show up in the big battle at the end of the movie, or are they going to be characters throughout? That's hard to know because we went to Mechaneck now on the casting.
Yeah,
it's like we have Ram Man, Mechaneck, Fisto, Moss Man's even in this, and it's like, how are we doing this? And that's where I'm like, I don't know. I'm waiting for the movie to even figure that part out for myself. So.
I think that we can. So there were. What's a good example of this? There are characters that are just thrown at us in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Even though George Lucas knew that there was a backstory to pretty much every one of those characters, he had developed it. You see them on the screen, for 5 seconds, and then they're gone.
Yep.
And that was fine for me. I don't need to know the story of Yak Face. I don't.
I think it depends on how big of a role that character plays in the story. Like if they're just a background character, or if they're, do they have speaking lines? Do they have, is there part of the story that they're carrying forward? That kind of thing.
Here's another Star Wars example. Why did we fall in love with Boba Fett?
Because he looks cool.
Because he looked badass and we knew nothing about him. So
he had a rocket on his back.
And it's like
I got to run already, guys. I need to go pick up my son.
All right.
So
Adam. That's okay.
Adam. Sorry to pop in and run.
Oh, you're all right.
That's all right. Hey, family comes
all
first.
Right.
Yep.
Good to see you.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Oh wait, now I have to figure out how to leave. without I think I just close the window because I'm on my phone, but I can
I think you just have to close the window.
I can actually remove you too if you want.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, Adam.
Bye.
Yeah, that's also why Stratos was cool. I mean, if you got a rocket on your back, dude, you're awesome.
For sure. Until he started talking like Sean Connery in the 2000X.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh God.
That was one of the worst lines I gave him too on 2000X out of everything.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
I mean, okay, so we talked about the movie. Like, we know what the toys can do right, like with the Mondo figures, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We know what would work well in a film. What do we want to see toy-wise if this film actually succeeds? Do we want to see? We also behind the scenes, Curtis and I were talking about. I think you were here for this, Shawn, when you popped in, but the quality between one Superman action figure and another Superman action figure, both made by the same company, like one being lesser than the other. Like we're seeing that in Masterverse. Dolph Lundgren's face is not great because they couldn't get the licensing or whatever. But the Skeletor looks fantastic. We're talking about the 87 movie, for those of you who don't know. Those figures, the Skeletor turned out really great, but the Dolph Lundgren didn't. So, Mattel's going to make the toys. If the movie succeeds, we're going to get toys. Do we want them to look like the vintage figures? Do we want them to look like... Do we want the license to just go to Mondo so that Mondo can make... what is it? 1/16th? Is it 1/6 scale? Like,
but they are making 1/12 MYP now too, so they're in both scales.
So 1/12, right? Movie figures made by Mondo would be amazing.
That would be great.
But we probably won't get that. So what do you want to see?
I'll just jump in, like live action. Action figures of a live action movie has not been anything that I've ever really cared about. Unless it has like a super nostalgic vibe to it. Like if when they come out with stuff from the 87 movie, I'm like, yes, I want that. It's going to remind me of my youth. If they came out with like Clash of the Titans figures right now. I
Oh
would
my
buy them up
God.
in a heartbeat, right?
Kraken.
But modern day stuff, like, you know, I appreciate it. I want to see the movie and stuff, but I don't need figures of those. I love the MCU. I don't have a single MCU character figure in my collection. I don't need that. So for me, I would hope that they would do something that appeals to younger kids, because what I want is that when I'm long dead and gone, that somebody still cares about this property, because this property is so good and so diverse with all these different characters. It's an amazing universe that I don't want it to die with us.
No.
You know? So that's what I hope, is that whatever they do in a movie, whatever they do in toys, the kids of the next generation want that. That's what I hope.
Yeah, me too. And the way for that to work is for them to be kids' toys, genuinely kids' toys, like the movie figures that are coming out that are at the 5-inch scale for Superman. Those are kids' toys. I've seen them at Walmart.
Yeah, the Spin Master ones.
The Spin Master ones.
Yeah. And they, I mean, if I was a kid, I would love them. They look great. I don't need them as an adult collector, but if I was a kid, I would want those Superman toys.
Yeah. So I'm kind of leaning toward the Origin style then, if they were to do movie figures, for them to do them in Origin style, because that's the closest thing to vintage that I think Mattel would be willing to do, because the vintage toys were made for kids. And that's why we like them. And, you know, the Origins is trying to be that. And it would be really cool if the movie figures were squat and bulky, even if it didn't match the way they looked on the film. Yeah, I think that would be cool. How about you, Shawn?
I already thought of this based on hearing you guys talk about it earlier, and like for me, another best case scenario I'm trying to say is I honestly don't think Masters is going to go away as a toy line, because at least for right now, because there is somebody like Mondo out there doing something where it's genuinely catering to something. They're filling a niche that has been waiting to be filled, with both lines that they're working on right now. And that to me shows, you know, like, I mean, freaking the Green Goddess sold out in like 2 hours when they offered that. I think even less than 2 hours.
And speaking of the Green Goddess, like Adam mentioned last time we all talked on the Frenzy, the Green Goddess Masterverse figure from Revolution is like hard to get now. So people like that, you know? I mean,
they're finding these interesting ways of putting in more life into the lines beyond just, oh, we need to reboot it again and all that. They're doing these, like even Origins is doing the Shirella now.
Oh yeah.
And that to me is really cool, because Masters has always been a little more limited in the female heroes.
Yeah.
Not counting She-Ra and all that, but like, you know, just He-Man. You got Teela, you got Sorceress. That's pretty much it. So having some, and obviously Evelyn, I should have said, but there is something to that. And for me, it's like whatever Mattel does, they've been doing their thing, and I haven't been responding to that, because that isn't what I want. I want Mondo the way that they're doing it. And I've been that guy waving the flag for them for like at least a year or two now. But I mean, that to me is like best case scenario. Mondo is still doing their thing. If Mattel ends up leaving us at prom with no date, you know, like Curtis is talking about, hopefully Mondo's still like, hey, we'll keep this license. We'll keep paying you for this, because people are actually into what we're doing. We're doing it right over here compared to like Mattel. Some of their decisions still, I don't understand why they did it that way for certain things. So, I mean, like movie figure wise, I See, I'm opposite of Curtis in one regard. I buy Black Widow figures because my wife doesn't know that I like Scarlett Johansson as much as I like her.
That just shows that she doesn't watch any of the
that
shows that you're on, because if she watched any of them, she would know.
she honestly, anytime anything with her shows up on the TV, she goes, "I know why you're watching this." And she'll
Well, I did want to tag on to something you were talking about with the Mondo, because
Sure.
the Green Goddess you were talking about sold out like super fast.
Yep.
The Beast Man that they've had up is still up. Like that's been up for like 3 weeks now.
The Filmation
And
coloration one.
And I think what's happening is that they don't understand that a lot of the folks that are collecting Mondo want their versions of the character. Like the Beastman that they put out is their take on Beastman, and it's phenomenal. And then they're like, okay, well now we're going to give you more of this kind of like, Filmation-y type look, and people aren't buying it. Like we want the Mondo versions. We want your style. Like that style of it's cool.
That Beastman is so fantastic. Yes, the sculpt is beautiful. The costume is amazing. But part of what made me want to get it was that they give you the option to give him the action figure head that doesn't look like the action figure. It just looks like the action figure, and that's amazing. If they would have just thrown in a Filmation style head with this Beastman, that would have been amazing,
with the fur instead of the sculpted fur.
Exactly. Yeah, just it's just 2 accessories that you switched out that you can switch out and get him to look like that, right? So do it more like the deluxe He-Man and Skeletor that they put out, where you can create like 4 different looks from them, that
right?
Skeletor is amazing, like all the different versions.
The thing about the Beastman that when I was looking at it recently, because I didn't really take it all in, I'm like, there's no way I care about this. I have the first one. That's the one that I was excited to get, and I'm happy to have it. And then I'm like, oh, he's got the Filmation booties on. The minute I saw that, I'm like, no, that you so are undercutting and undermining what is so cool about that figure. Like Curtis said, I mean, it's there was even a guy on one of the groups when Beastman came out where he took all the fur off of the armor and he just did his own thing on there. I'm like, why would you buy this figure that's with all the bells and whistles, and you just start ripping things off of it? That to me is like, that's what they meant to do with it. It's not what you want to do with it. It's what they meant to do with it.
I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that saw that Filmation type version of Beastman that was like, yes, this is the one I've been waiting on. And that's great. But you can tell just from how fast the first one sold and how fast this one's selling, like it's just the interest isn't as much overall. So.
See, another compliment to Mondo is seeing the He-Man outfit in the movie looking like the Mondo He-Man outfit. So, I mean, I hope that they're taking, clues from Mondo on how to translate the original designs of these characters into something that actually will work on film. That's, Mondo. And the Mondo figures and the Rudy Obrero art make this absurd thing feel like it's real, like it can be real.
It brings it into real world.
Yeah. I want the movie Beastman to look like this guy back here. Sorry, he's in the. You can't really see him very well, but I want it to look like the Mondo Beastman.
He's over there for me. I know.
He's got to look like the Mondo Beastman. Yeah. I'm glad we all have him.
Yeah.
It's like, where's Waldo? Where's your Beastman?
Yeah. It's like if they were to do, I feel the same way about anything that it has significant meaning for me. If they're gonna do a movie about the Matterhorn ride at Disneyland, they've got to make the Abominable Snowman be white with blue skin. If they try to make him look like, they try to make the Yeti look like an orangutan, it's just not going to be appealing to me.
But I like the take that Mondo does on some of these things. Like when I saw the like the pink helmeted trap jaw that came out, I really liked that look from Filmation.
Yeah.
But theirs looks cooler. Like what they did originally, and it's got kind of this like, especially with the armor in the front, it's almost got this like samurai-esque thing about it, and the jaw is more like squared off instead of round and stuff, and it's their take, but like their take is really good. And so then you see the other one come out and you're like, yeah, I would have been happy to get that one, but now that I have this one, like that's the one I want the Mondo version. So it is kind of taking those original designs, paying respect to them, but at the same time going, okay, if we were to do that today with today's technology, everything, how would we want it to look? And then they design around the original concept. And I just think they do a great job.
Yeah.
So if they were doing 1/12 scale and just putting out, 20, 30 figures a year, I would be in major trouble. So,
well, we're hoping that they do that, right? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if my wallet could take that.
I did when they said that they were going to be doing the 1/12 scale 2000X Mike Young production figures. I love certain characters from that show, but I don't love them all. I don't love all the design choices. So I breathed a sigh of relief because I was like, okay, I can pick and choose what I'm going to get. But if they said we're doing all of the original Masters of the Universe figures that you know and love, based on the original toys, so we'd be getting 1/12 Beastman, I would be like you. I'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
This would be a serious problem.
We haven't seen the MYP 1/12 cost yet.
Right.
But just based on what they're including, based on the fact that it's over 7 inches tall, I gotta imagine it's going to be right around that $100 price range. They said it was going to be less than the Ghostbusters, and the Ghostbusters were like 101.
Yeah,
but they didn't say how much less.
So, $1 less.
Yeah, it could be 100, could be 99. I don't see it being less than like 85. And for that price point, I'm happy that I don't feel like I have to go all in. I'll probably pick and choose, like you're saying, because there's certain characters from that. I loved how MYP dealt with scale. Like they had just like these certain characters that were huge, they were massive, and we haven't really gotten that form, like a Clawful, or like we've gotten it in Staction form. But we really haven't gotten like a massive Clawful or a Too Bad in the MYP style that's just like the bigger size and everything. So I think those, I would probably have to buy just because we haven't had those versions yet. So
I mean, if they do Clawful as one of the first ones, I'm gonna have a hard time resisting.
It's on the first. They announced the first 4, and he's in there.
With He-Man,
I'm gonna have a hard time.
But what they haven't done is shown the size, because like we know He-Man is like I think 7 1/4 inches or something, but we don't know if like are they gonna make Clawful about that same size, or are they gonna truly do it like the show where he's like
they better
twice that size.
They better do it like the show. That was one of the, like you said, that was one of the most exciting aspects of that show, seeing a giant Beastman and a giant Clawful.
Until Clawful opened his mouth, he's like, "Burger."
Thank you. Thank you. Every time you and Matt talk about that when you're talking about the Mike Young production show, I'm like, amen, brothers, because that's one of the worst choices ever. And it's like the same voice too for Clawful, Ram Man, and Whiplash. Is it the same dude or something?
It probably is. Yeah.
And why? Ram Man. I don't want to see Ram Man talking like that. I don't want to see.
They did such a good design for Clawful. Like he looks so imposing, and then he opens his mouth, and you're like, oh, this guy's an idiot.
It's deeply disappointing. Yeah. All right. Well, I think they'll probably do. They're probably going to do toys for kids. Hopefully, if the movie succeeds, they'll probably do toys for kids, and I'm hoping that they, the Spin Master Superman toys are good, but I hope they don't do something like that for Masters of the Universe. I hope that they bulk them out a little bit. Have fun with the packaging. And I hope that they also give us, if the designs are cool, which it seems like they might be, I hope they give us, good figures too, like Mondo or continue improving Masterverse or whatever they've got to do. John says, I'll buy the toys.
There you go.
It's going to be hard to resist. Unless the designs are total flops and you'd be embarrassed to have it on your show. We're going to do any of you, how we talk about, in our family, we sometimes talk about, what's the term for this? What is it when you're embarrassed? Like you have cringe. Not cringe, but you have something on your playlist, your Spotify playlist or whatever, and it's like a band that you're ashamed that what is that called?
Man, guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure, right? Do you guys have guilty pleasure toys?
Well, actually, it's funny. We just talked about this last week on Off-World.
Did you?
A lightning round question came up, and I think it was similar question, but it was worded as what is a toy line that you had that you don't tell people that you have?
Yeah,
right?
That's a good.
Not that you're hiding it, but it's just like you're not going to bring it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And mine was when I was a kid, I had the Care Bears, like all the little ones.
Oh yeah,
like,
the plastic ones.
Where they had like just their legs and arms moved and stuff.
Yeah.
I had like all of them, but like when my friends, like if my friends were coming over to play, those all got hidden away. They weren't out. I'd have all the wrestling figures out and the masters and stuff. Yeah, but the Care Bears went away.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember when I would go visit my cousins, they had Care Bears. They had the Care Bears. They had the Barbies. And it was so much fun because I would bring my toys and we'd all play. And it was, it's like, but if I had the fear of being judged when you're young.
Oh, yeah.
So strong. I mean, I was afraid of being judged in my own household.
Well, there was folks when we were talking about this on Off-World last week. They were like, they wanted to collect some of the characters from the She-Ra line, but they knew that like either their dads would have had a problem with it, or their friends would have had a problem with it, or whatever. And so I was lucky in the fact that I just convinced my sister that she needed them, that they were really cool. And so she would get them as birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. Yeah. And then I would, pull all the horde over and play them with my toys.
There you go. I mean, I do remember feeling like, well, I'm getting horde figures in the Masters of the Universe line, and I'm not getting the She-Ra figures because they're in pink packages. Like that kind of sucks. I remember feeling that way. So yeah, I mean, I asked that question realizing quickly that I have no shame now. Like my guilty pleasures are way out in the front now, as opposed to the way they were when I was a kid. I have no problem admitting if I like a band that most people dislike or whatever, but toys.
I think there's two factors that play with that. One is that you just get older and you don't care as much what people think, right? And then the other thing I think is just social media. Like we have, it has allowed us connect with people that we otherwise wouldn't know that also like the same things as us, right? So that like I remember when I got to about 16 years old, it was like nobody I knew was still collecting toys. So it was like one of these things where I had to kind of do it in secret, until my brother outed me and like brought one of my toys to school and like smashed it in front of everybody.
Oh, man.
And that was like the last toy line I collected. It was the Star Trek The Next Generation line. And I stopped for, 15 years before starting back up again and stuff. And, but I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody that collected this stuff. And when I got back into toy collecting, it's because I found some figures at a flea market, some vintage master stuff I was just kind of going to paint them up and restore them. And one of the guys there at the flea market changed my world, because he's like, hey, are you in any of the MOTU groups on Facebook? And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like, the words you just said don't resonate with me. I don't know what you're talking. He's like, well, they got these Facebook groups, and you can, they're pretty much have them for everything. And anything that you like, you can go in there and you're going to find other people that collect that same thing. And, you know, I found podcasts, you know, Legends of Grayskull, Podcasters of the Universe, Fans of Power. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, there's adults that like this stuff and still collect this stuff and talk about this stuff. Like, this is so cool. And I think without internet and the social media aspect of it, we probably would still be in the dark, feeling like we're the only weirdos that still like toys. Right.
That's exactly true. I didn't know what exactly was out there. You know, there were the forums online for Masters of the Universe. I knew about those when in the early 2000s, late 90s. You know, I would go online and I'd look up images of Merman or of, you know, Clawful, whatever the toys, just to get that feeling again. And then going to flea markets and seeing them. I wasn't buying them, you know, I just didn't have the money to throw away like that, even though back then it was like $3 for Scare Glow or whatever, you know. And then it wasn't until I started my YouTube channel where I got a couple comments. They're like, hey, you should, you know, there's a Facebook group, you should join it. And I was like, and as soon as I saw how much was out there about all this Masters of the Universe stuff and all these fan groups, I was so relieved.
Yeah, it's all these like little subcultures that in our society, like if you're into jujitsu, or if you're into, you know, I don't know, playing D&D or whatever it is, like all of a sudden you find out, hey, there's a bunch of people that do this same thing and like this same thing, and we can chat about it. And it's cool. It's a way to connect people. So
I mean, the fact that the Mythic Legions groups bring all of these people together who are from different interests that are united by this new thing, and then they're all makers, they're all customizers. Like, that's badass. I mean,
Emil lives in Sweden. I talk to him just about every week now.
Yeah,
right. Like, we wouldn't have known each other at all if it weren't for So.
That's incredible. It's incredible, and I think that Mythic Legions does the same thing that Masters has done for people. It gives people an opportunity to world build, even though, and you know, Mythic Legions even more so, because there is no, at least not yet, there are no television shows, there are no comic books. Wait, are there comic books?
There's a comic book that they did early on, but they don't consider it to be canon.
Got it. So. And so there, you know, Mythics is
there's like bios that they put out with the character, so there is lore, but it's not so locked in that you can't use your imagination to create your own storyline.
Yeah,
they kind of leave it open a bit.
That's amazing, and that's awesome. And for me, that's what Masters did for me when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I didn't get into Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. I was spending too much time like playing with, you know, Masters of the Universe figures and Star Wars figures and G.I. Joe figures all at the same time, and creating my own worlds, and that was badass. I would have never told anybody I was doing that as a kid, but I was doing it, and I'm proud I was. So I'm glad that Mythics is doing that for folks, and I know there are a lot of other independent toy lines too that are doing it. I'm worried how, you know, Four Horsemen are doing right now. With, you know, tariffs and things like that. But
as far as I can tell, everything's going pretty smooth. I mean, there was that rough period where everybody was kind of holding on to things because the tariffs, the way that it works is it hits whenever you load it on the boat. So it doesn't matter, like when it arrives at shore, it doesn't matter what the rate is. It's what it was when you loaded it on the boat.
That's awesome.
So when it was really high, everybody was just kind of like looking for warehouse space and telling the factories like, well, hey, just hold this stuff for me right now, because with it high like that, we cannot load it on the boat.
Yeah.
And then once, things kind of calmed down and, there was the pause and everything, then they were like, okay, get it on the boat, get it on now.
Yeah.
So I think,
Smart.
a lot of that is if you're a big enough company that you had some warehouse space, you probably were okay and you were able to weather the storm. If you're an upstart, Kickstarter and you had your spot in line to get these things produced, and then after it's produced, like you immediately need to ship it, you probably got hurt.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm glad Four Horsemen's okay, and I just love everything that they do. I can't afford to buy in, but because there's just too many other things that, and I'm driven by nostalgia anyways. Like if it's new to me, I'm gonna have a hard time investing in developing nostalgia for it so that I can appreciate it later on.
I'll tell you one thing that, like, if you ever get a chance to do, they've got, so at Legions Con, the couple days before Legions Con, they do thing they call Intern for a Day. So they do a lottery. The lottery's open right now. It's ending soon. And if you get to go in there, one of the coolest things is they've got a bunch of like old stuff that they worked on, including the MYP stuff, and they've got what's called 2-ups. So when they used to sculpt this stuff by hand, they had to sculpt it twice the size of whatever it was, and then they would shrink it down for the tooling and to make the actual figures and stuff. Because if you sculpted it in bigger, you could put extra details in it. So then when you shrunk it down, it would look really nice. And they've got these 2-ups of the MYP stuff, the 2000X, and they are phenomenal. Because some of those sculpts are really good, and some of the figures didn't turn out good, but it's because of the action features that Mattel wanted to put in after they did the sculpting. So when you're able to look at these as like a 2-up, almost like a statue, basically, you go, holy crap. Like the first time I saw it, I go, what is that? How do I get that? And it's like, oh, that's not available. That's, we sculpted that and everything for that. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is something that I think, Shawn, you did that, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I was there twice.
When I found out Shawn had done it and he had talked about it a little bit with us, it was like, oh man, that is something that, I mean, that's like right up my alley. Walking into a studio, seeing people working on stuff, seeing the stages of development and the artistry behind all that. I love that. I love behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, it's something.
If you ever get a chance, I'm telling you, it's just they've got tons of stuff related to Legions, obviously. But just from a MOTU perspective, there's some MOTU stuff in there that you'll never see anywhere else in the world.
I want to do that.
The thing that got me was the second time I did it, my friend Jesse invited me as his +1, and their director of sales and marketing, Jeremy Gerard. He gave me some crap the second time I was in there because he saw me always going over to the Masters cases. He's like, you already saw those last year. Why are you worrying about this? Because this is amazing. This is my thing. Masters was what got me all the way to New Jersey to be in this place, because if it wasn't for me loving them when I was 3 and 4 years old and buying these figures in my 30s and 40s, I wouldn't have stepped foot in the studio. How crazy is that?
There's got to be it would be really great if there were a location where we could go and engage with all that material.
Like a museum or something.
A museum would be great.
We talked to museum.
We talked to MOTU Joe about that when he came on the Frenzy a while back. Like your collection would be amazing if it was available for people to go peruse through, but to see like if Mattel would bring in their prototypes and Four Horsemen would have all their stuff, and the merchandising collections of people bringing their stuff together, Pixel Dan or whoever, it would be amazing. I know us fans have talked about a MOTU museum for years, but
it'd be cool.
It would be amazing, and it would be great if it was centrally located, so I wouldn't have to worry about traveling all the way over to the East Coast for something super exciting.
That's true.
But I mean, an excuse to travel is good, but always costs money.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
I mean, they did make New Jersey a vacation spot. That's probably the most impressive thing they've done as a studio.
Yeah, that's amazing, right?
The second most amazing thing is you can't turn left in New Jersey for some ungodly reason, but they somehow made it a vacation spot.
Hey, if there was a MOTU museum in New Jersey and you could visit the Four Horsemen Studios, that's a weekend right there.
Yeah,
that's an amazing weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, someday. Pipe dreams. Well, I guess Matt's not going to be able to make it. That's too bad. Let me see.
2 out of 3.
Yeah.
He's douching it up.
Family.
I just
first.
To that chat that we had, I sent the Stratos one because that was the one that most impressed me. Because I thought that that figure, that 2000X Stratos figure, I thought was terrible. But when you see the sculpt without the action features and stuff, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that is incredible.
So good.
That is incredible. I'm going to send it to myself and bring it up. You guys talk amongst yourselves because I won't be able to do this at the same time.
Yeah, I was trying to see because they've also got a Cyclone and a Trapjaw. I can't remember. Do you remember which other one? Oh, here. Oh, I found them. Oh,
okay.
Shit.
Send them my way.
They had a Skeletor, I want to say.
They've got a Clawful, a Mechanic, and some of them, because they're like one of a kind pieces from the sculpt. So some of them have like some broken parts that, I forget which one, but one of them had like one where there was like parts laying next to it.
But that was Skeletor, I want to say. I think is
here's
Oedipus.
So
Oedipus is right next to Mechanic here.
Yeah, it's and like I said, it's the only place that you can see that because it's the only one that exists. Okay. So yeah. Like I said, if you're a MOTU fan, I would put in for that intern for a day every single year, just so you have a chance to look at those, if nothing else. But the rest of it's awesome. You get to talk to their painters. You get to talk to the people that like Eric, who does the sculpting. He actually sits in and does a sculpting session where he asks people for ideas on what to make, and then he live sculpts it right there on screen on ZBrush. It's an amazing experience anyway. But like I said, just for the MOTU stuff, it's something you won't see anywhere else. So
I have a really important question.
Yeah.
Do they feed you?
They do.
Hey, that's
they do.
Nice.
You're there. So you're there for the day. If you get drawn, it's $300 for you and a guest. So what a lot of people do is they just split it, right? So it's $150 each. And what you can do is like you can put in for it. You can have a friend put in for it, and if they win, they take you. If you win, you take them. So now you got double the chances of getting in. And then you pay $300. Whoever's name got pulled, they get like a bust of a character that they make that you get to take home with you, which if I'm being honest, if you don't want the bust, you can sell and get your money back for I've seen them sold for $300 to $400 just for that bust.
Oh wow.
And then like midway through they have some like muffins and stuff just at the beginning of the day, and then about midway through they order in pizza, which is from like 4 doors down. Like it's like within walking distance.
Nice.
And it's this New Jersey pizza that's like the best pizza you'll ever eat in your life. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I got to convert these really quick. So just give me a moment here.
Oh, no problem. But it's a super fun experience. And then the other thing is that they share a space with a props company, and the prop company makes props for Broadway musicals. They make props for Saturday Night Live, and so like they take you on a tour of that too, and you get to see some like really cool stuff in there as well.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's just a really fun event altogether. Henri says, whatever happened to the Dooch? He's doing Dooch things. Doing Dooch things.
He's being a superhero.
He is as Douche does.
Yeah, like creates the whole off-world channel and then just stops showing up. So yeah, very, very douche-like. In fact, we've got a messenger group that we talk about like what we're gonna have on the show and stuff. He's now left the messenger group. So he started he started a YouTube channel, put a show together that he no longer shows up for, and he's not even in the group about the channel, but it's still his channel. So every time that we're getting, ratings and views and all that stuff, he has nothing to do with it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's not my channel, but I'm the other guy that did that. So there you go.
Yeah.
All of that I'm hearing, and I'm like, yeah, that's me too. That's me.
Yeah. Yeah, except for it's not your channel. But yes, same thing. Yeah, you're invisible something number one, and he's invisible something number two.
Yeah, and most of mine, I mean, mine's mostly just because of the family aspect.
Yeah, totally get it.
I needed to pull back and all that stuff, but
the difference is that you will just flat out say like, hey, I can't make it because of this and that. Mm-hmm. Dooch will say he's going to be there and then just not show up.
This is true. I if I say I'm going to do something, I will be there. Like, actually this weekend, it's kind of cool. Richard from Euro Legions podcast, he's having me on to do the Rich's randoms.
Oh, nice.
So now I get to do that on Saturday. I'm like, well, if I told you I'm going to be there, I will absolutely be there. That'll be fun. So
that's cool.
But yeah.
Yeah, Shawn, whenever you say you're going to show up, you show up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And now
nice. That's how I work. I don't know. That's just me. I'm not giving any crap to Dooch about that. I'm just saying.
I'll give Dooch crap.
Like, well, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. That's all there is.
So there was one episode. It's probably one of our most famous episodes of Offworld, where Dooch walked off. He left, right, and he was coming back. He says he's coming back, and he just leaves. And he went to go check on something or whatever, and he never came back. But he left his camera on. So the camera is just like showing his chair, right? Well, when we were done with the show, we're like, you know what? We're going to just leave it running and see how long it is before he comes back and turns it off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then like a bunch of us like started going to other groups and kind of talking about how the stream was still rolling and all it's showing is his chair. And so people start going in and they're for hours. People were just watching his chair for hours and commenting. It was like the most like comments and viewership that we had in the chat. And they were talking about like the stuff that he had in the background and they were like auctioning off all his toys.
That's incredible. Maybe the Dooch is a performative genius.
Yeah.
He's like the Andy Kaufman.
Was our best guest ever. Yeah.
Here I come to save the day.
Yeah. I mean, to this day, people will say, hey, what are the odds of getting Dooch's chair back on the show? And then I guess he woke up the next morning and he came downstairs and it was still running and he saw the comments rolling and stuff. And then he ended the stream. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Man, that trap jaw too. Oof.
Look at that. Oh, that is so incredible. You're right about the Stratos. Like I mean, when those figures came out, I bought Trapjaw, I bought Skeletor, I bought Beastman, I bought He-Man, and I did not buy Stratos. But man, it's so good.
Well, and these are two different trap. If you go back, that's two different Trapjaws. The one below Stratos there is actually missing his arm.
Oh,
so it's broken off. So when they do the 2-ups, they typically had two of them. They had one that they kept, and then they had one that they sent off to Mattel for the whatever. For some reason on the Trapjaw, they've got both of them, but one of them is busted, and the other one is not.
I want to say the one on the left right there. I thought that they did a statue kind of like because they did a Skeletor, they did Clawful, and I want to say they did Trapjaw. Where they were those stacks.
Oh, you know what? I think you might be right. I think this one might be the staction, and the one underneath is the figure.
The one underneath is the figure.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. But the one underneath, you can see his whole mechanism, his arm mechanism is missing.
Yeah.
And it's just like laying down next to him. So
that made me so sad though, because that's like out of all of the 2000X redesigns, he's still one of my absolute favorites. And to just see him, like, I guess He-Man probably gave him some crap that day, you know.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the clawful statue.
He-Man just ripped his arm off.
Is that that's the bigger clawful staction, right? Because
this is the 2-up of the staction. So it's like as big as the big staction is. This is twice that.
So I have seen this staction in people's collections, but I have a staction where his mouth is closed and he's a bit smaller, I think. But I'm this is just beautiful.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so what we're saying here is that the Mondo figure of Clawful better capture this.
Right. Yeah.
And, Mecha Neck looks amazing too.
Mm-hmm.
But Oedipus takes the cake.
You like that?
I love that so much. That's my favorite. But that's my favorite episode from that. The story of Stinkor.
They did such a good. The Icons of Evil comic books that they did such a good job of developing the backstory of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that Stinkor episode did that. It was like the same thing as those comic books, but in, action form, because you got to see the cartoon.
Yeah. So good. And there's Skeletor above Clawful, I think. I see the Havoc stuff, and then below as well.
Yeah, one of them is the staction, the other one is the figure.
Got it.
So that on the left, that Clawful statue, that's a NECA statue, not the Staction, because the Staction is
okay.
The statue right now on eBay is over $500.
Oh my!
And this should be twice the size of that statue.
Yes, it'll be that thing is at least a foot to maybe 18 inches tall already.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the scaling from seeing it. So yeah. And I mean, hell, I've never been a Mecha Neck guy, but that's freaking cool.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah, gorgeous. Thank you for sending those our way, Curtis.
Yeah, and I wish I had some more, but that's all. Did you get the Cyclone one?
Oh, let me see.
I threw a bunch at you too because I did singles of all of them. Plus, they had the test shots for Battle Cat and Panther from the 2000X line, and the Classics Grayskull. The minute you walk in, that's like on the right side when you walk through the door of the studio.
Oh, I don't know if I sent this one. There's a Tila too.
Okay, send Tila, and then I will update the slides. That's cool.
But yeah, it's just, and then, on top of the MOTU stuff, then they've got stuff with the, all the different lines that they've worked on. They've got, a lot of the Legions figures, the early prototypes and stuff. Because even with Legions, like everything with MOTU Classics, all the way up till like the second or third wave of Legions, they were sculpting with clay. And it wasn't until about the second or third wave of Legions that they switched to digital sculpting, and are now doing pretty much everything in ZBrush. So
wow,
yeah. I want to say Eric said that he was working on the DC Universe line for Mattel, and that's when he started trying that out for real. And I think he said like one of the Supergirl figures is one of the first ones he can point to and go, that was all digital, the way he did that one. So
well, it's kind of interesting too, like their whole success and how they've built their company. Like when they left McFarlane, because they all worked. I don't know if this is if everybody that's watching knows this, but they worked for McFarlane Toys. And they left to create their own company. And pretty much one of the first things that they did was they got the license to work with Mattel to make the 2000X stuff, right? Well, the reason that worked, I was talking to Cornboy about this, is in Mattel at the time, it was a huge company. And apparently if you tried to make a toy in-house, there was all these hoops you had to jump through. You had to get it through like multiple levels of approval and all this kind of stuff. But if you outsourced the sculpting, you could bypass a bunch of the approval process. So even though they had internal people that could have sculpted the 2000X line and done it, they went with the Horseman because it allowed them to get the stuff done easier and get it to market faster, right? Just because of the red tape they had built within their organization. So I just think it's funny that because their structure was built with like all these levels of bureaucratic nonsense, you know, they had to outsource to the Horsemen, which helped the Horsemen get their start, which then led them to making their own toy line, which led to the Legions community as we know it. All because Mattel was built in a weird way. So,
well, that's, if you look at the 2000X line, the one figure to me that looks the most corporate, I guess, or the most, what was that term that they used to, like market tested in the line is He-Man.
Yeah.
And like, when you look at his face, he's very much 2000 He-Man. Like, there's no way around that because he looks so anime. And that was the flavor of the time. That was, you know, it made sense. But at the same time, it's like there's something about the rest of the line that doesn't feel that way, that He-Man has that like sore thumb about him, which is why with Mondo doing it, I'm excited because you get multiple heads and you can do what you want with them and all that versus it looking anime all the time.
Well, there was, I think, you know, we've gone through a couple of the toy episodes with me and Dooch, and I'm pretty sure that I'm getting this right, that Mattel did all the vehicles. So Horseman didn't do the vehicles. Mattel determined the action features. So Horseman didn't have a say on that. And then with a lot of the Skeletor and He-Man variants, Mattel had most of that done themselves. They didn't go through the Horseman for a lot of that stuff. So there is definitely a disconnect, and they even talk about it in the Dark Horse book that you know, Pixel Dan helped put together and stuff, that there is like this disconnect in the line because some of the things were made by Mattel and some of the things were designed by the Horsemen, and everything doesn't exactly jive within it. So
I agree with that. Because I mean, hell, they that was the line that made variants a bad word, in my opinion.
Yeah, well,
give me Skeletor.
It's a running gag as we're going through those toy episodes, because we're up to, I think, wave 6, and we have so far in 6 waves, we've got 26 ways to get He-Man and Skeletor, and there's some main characters that still have not come out yet by wave 6.
Yeah,
well,
see that?
Yeah, that is
26 different He-Man and Skeletors.
That was annoying back then too. It's still annoying today.
And I get the logic. I mean, they don't want that people that jump in at wave 3 or wave 4 to not have an option to buy Skeletor and He-Man. But it's one of those, okay, well, you don't want to be in the right ditch, so you're just going to swing the steering wheel and go into the left ditch, you know? like, you know, you just want to pull it back just to go straight in the road. But no, they went the farther direction.
I mean, that is one of the things about the 2000X cartoon, though. At least they use the variants. Whereas if it was Filmation and you didn't get the classic He-Man, you just sit there and go, "Oh, come on," you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to me, the only variants that were worth a damn out of that line probably were Fire Armor Skeletor and Ice Armor He-Man.
Both of them. We just reviewed those recently. They're both awesome.
I love both of them. I didn't even know they made them until I found them on eBay when I was buying the line again, like when I was in my 20s, and I was like, "Holy crap, that looks like a Frazetta He-Man."
I didn't find out about MYP series or the 2000X figures till about 15 years after that it was done.
Ouch.
Yeah. I had no idea what was going on. It was not anywhere on my radar. So,
yeah, Toy Fair magazine. That's
Fair magazine.
See, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
I was so disconnected.
I went from toys as a kid, and then I went into comics when I was about 12, and I was in comics even before that, but like I hit comics really hard at 12. But then there was always an undercurrent of toys with that, and then Toy Fair being at the comic store was so easy for me to just, hey, what's on the cover? He-Man, and then grab it.
There you go.
Crap, I need to have this,
Like, look at that Skeletor, man.
Yeah, that's
that
amazing.
Beauty.
So good. Now, I would be fine with the Skeletor in the movie looking like this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And we all want Grayskull to look like this, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's Battle Cat there with it too.
Yeah, because the 2000X Battle Cat, you had to have like everything had to have rockets, launching rockets. Yeah,
and if you took the helmet off of Battle Cat, the underneath the head just did not look great either to me. I don't think that I guess obviously the Horsemen have the test shot and that's their thing, but that was one of the few misses for me, even with them, where I was like, that the original is the best looking Battle Cat without his mask, snarling faces,
Yeah. So there's that trap jaw. I think that's the one that the fell off in the other end.
Yeah, it looks like they propped it back in, because I took pictures for a couple different years. So this must be where they had it. They must have popped it back in.
That one was probably a year or two before you went.
That's just the attachments down there. Yeah.
What was it? I went in 22. I think it was in 23 with Jesse.
I forgot that they did Power Lords too. That they redid those figures too.
And those were also there. What little they had were actually on display in the showcases and when you walk in the door too.
Those are pretty cool. Cool.
Dude, that Cyclone.
Yeah, it's badass.
Fantastic.
You're absolutely right. That should not work, and it just works.
Yeah. If you go to any color theory thing and you're like, okay, putting the primary colors together in one character, like, no way. Like that's totally gonna clash and look weird.
Yeah. It's what a gutsy choice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it's sort of, there is the Superman thing. Like, Superman has mostly blue and red. Mm-hmm. Cyclone has more yellow and blue. But then those little accents are enough, it helps.
Yeah, so the primary colors totally work with Superman. Blue, red, and yellow.
Yep.
So why wouldn't it work with Cyclone? It's the amount of yellow, I think, is primarily what's off-putting. That's a lot of bright yellow.
It definitely in your face. Like when you walk by a collection, if it's got Cyclone on it, like, he immediately stands out.
You're like, what is that?
The crazy thing about that for me is, like, as a kid, I didn't realize how much joy a character like Buzz-Off brought to me until I was an adult and I saw Buzz-Off again. And there was just this, like, happiness that came out of me just seeing, like, the classics figure of him again. Or the 2000X version or a vintage version. So it really does. Like, yellow is an energetic and happy, positive color. So it's hard not to react that way.
Have you seen the Sorceress Staction where it's got the different color, like where they kind of use the Filmation color scheme with this design?
That. Yeah,
it looks fantastic. Like, I've always hated this design. But then dude showed me the one where it's the same design, but then they overlaid the Filmation colors on it, because they put the Staction out with two different colors, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I was never a fan of the subdued Egyptian motif for her either. Again, bright colors, like, they just they push the button for me. That's why I jumped on this, Curtis, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for sending that to me. Folks, I got this from Curtis. He sent it to me. It got to me really fast. I didn't have to wait or remind him or anything. He was on it. Thank you.
I tried, man. Yeah, I was watching a video from another YouTuber that was saying, "Oh, I'm collecting this line, but I'll never be able to get this one because it's just going to be so hard to come by." And then I'm walking through the store and I see it right there, and I'm like, well, here it is. And then I reached out to him. He's like, "Oh, nope, got one from somebody else." I'm like, "All right, well, I'm sure somebody will want it." So
yeah, it's amazing. Made me rewatch that episode that he showed up in.
Dude, I've been starting to watch some of those again too. I'm like putting together a little Legion of Doom collection.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. I'm actually some of them I'm taking the McFarlane's and then customizing them into the looks that I want.
Ooh,
so
that's awesome. Is that why you were looking for Grundy?
Yeah. I just shared at the bottom there. That's that Sorcerers if you want to pull that up.
Oh, this one, end of the stage. Oh yeah, that's so good.
I mean, it's the exact same sculpt. It's just with the different colors, and it works so well, man. Like, I would have loved if we got this in the MYP series.
Did you guys notice that Matt's actually following the chat though?
No,
just saying. I mean, it showed that he's looking at all this while we're doing it. So where the hell is he?
Matt, get on here.
He's being the douche. So,
well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think brings us back? Why do we keep coming back to Masters? Why does it still matter to us? And I'm just gonna say this too, and I know some people this might go against what they're experiencing right now, but I was super into GoBots and I was super into G.I. Joe as a kid. Neither one of those have activated in me the urgency to recollect. I saw a GoBot at an antique store last week and I was tempted, but I didn't. I see G.I. Joes all the time when I'm out toy hunting, whether they are new or old, and I'm tempted, but I don't bite the bullet. For me, I have a pretty good idea as to why Masters does this to me still, but I'd like to know why you guys keep coming back to it.
You want to go first, Shawn? Or you want me to?
I'll let you go first. Go for it.
For me, it combines the things that I love, right? So when I was growing up, loved sword and sorcery. Me and my mom would watch movies all the time. Conan, Red Sonja, Beastmaster, Clash of the Titans, all that stuff. And then I also loved toys. And so He-Man was like that thing that bridged the gap between the sword and sorcery I loved on the big screen and toys, right? And so at the time, that was like everything that I loved rolled into one. And then as an adult, finding out that the Four Horsemen did the MOTU classics, getting into those, which led into Legions, which led into my customizing journey and all the friends that I've made in the Legions community. Masters brought me to that too, right? So Masters connects me to the sword and sorcery. Masters connects me to my Legions friends and community. It's like that one thing that hits all of those areas. So
yeah, that sounds about right. It's a similar thing for me. What about you, Shawn?
For me, I think when I first discovered it as a kid, one of the things that really was cool was the idea of no rules. As weird as that sounds, the line just started. I found it on the peg, brought my first figure home, which was He-Man. And when you see what he comes with, I mean, literally sword, axe, shield. My mom thought I was going to want to kill other kids because I was playing with this figure. And for me, it wasn't even about the fact that he had the weapons. It was more the idea of this rough and tumble imaginary world he comes from. And this is the kind of stuff he needs in order to function in this world. And for me as a kid, that just completely blew my mind, because everything else I knew was based around everything was on Earth for the most part. Like Superman came to Earth. Star Wars is different, but I mean, yeah, they wore normal clothes for the most part. Like we could almost fit in a Star Wars world to the most part. Then all of a sudden there's this barbarian who's telling you, no, fur loincloths, man. That's the way of the future, you know? And there's just something about it where it is like this ethereal primal feeling for me every time I think about it. And, you know, Filmation putting in the whole I have the power, you know, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power moment. And when I'm 4 and 5 years old watching that show and that theme song kicks in, and you as a 4 or 5 year old have no power whatsoever, the minute you hear your main character, who probably is the hero that you're admiring, all he has to do is raise that sword and say that, there's something so elemental hearing him scream that while that power is rippling around him, that when you were a kid, you were like, yeah, you know. And I know that was like the whole I have the power was the selling thing, but for me, it just worked, because it's like you start with Superman with the ripping open the shirt and the S's underneath, and you go to here's a sword and you're gonna kick some ass now, and you get to yell I have the power on top of that, and it just awakens this elemental primal thing for me as a kid, and like even coming back to it as an adult, no rules. That was the thing that really appealed to me, because at that time I had a job, I was married. I'm still married. I am married, but at that time I was also married, had one kid already and a second one on the way.
Yeah.
And the amount of things that you are dealing with going through your daily life and the rules and this and that, to all of a sudden here's the He-Man as a classics figure in your hand, and you go, no rules. Yeah, you know, and it awakens something in you to make it that always worked for me. The whole, you know, it can be what you want it to be. It doesn't have to be Filmation. It could be mini comics. It could be 2000X. It could be your version, whatever your version is. So
I think the other thing for me is the story is so good because there's so many good villains, right? Like Thundercats was around the same time as He-Man, and I liked Thundercats, but really you had Mumra, 3 mutants, and that's about it. You'd have some every now and then characters that would come up, but none of them were ever really like super good. But with He-Man, like you look at the toys that we had for the villains, and you look at their like, okay, this one's Merman, and he's in the water, he can control all this sea life, and then you've got Beastman, and he can control all these other animals and stuff, and you got Trapjaw, and he's got this amazing jaw that can like crunch things, and he's got the little hook thing in his head, and he can slide down a rope, and you know, you got Webstore, and he's got his little thing that you can make him go on the string. And
so cool.
Like, it was just this whole like array of villains that had these cool action features, cool looks. They were just so unique. It was just a lot of fun. You know, like I think the story is built around having a lot of really cool villains, and they did a great job of just building out that universe of villains.
Yeah.
And there you are. Following up on that real quick, it was also the first toy line that I ever remember where they literally were saying, by the way, He-Man and Skeletor need to team up now. And you're like, what? They can do that? And then also the Horde, and then the Snake Man. It's like, as much as I'm not a huge Snake Man guy, the Horde blew my mind as a kid. Like, you mean there's other guys, and now the villains actually don't like them? So now the villain, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend to fight these guys? This is insane. You know? Like,
beautiful. I mean, and for me, it was the fact that this is piggybacking off of many things that you both have said already, but it was the fact that every character was an individual. Even He-Man and Man-at-Arms are 2 white dudes, and Ram-Man, but they are so different from each other.
Mhm.
And they're all, every character has their own thing going on. They're unique. They're different. The villains are so special. Like there's no array of villains that I can think of that are so spectacularly unique into themselves. You know, Leech, come on. Merman, come on.
Trapjaw switching out the attachments in his arm and
just
stuff.
Unbelievable. I remember Trapjaw was the first one that I saw on the peg and in person, and the fact that he had an articulated jaw just absolutely blew my mind. And that he was blue and green and maroon,
a bunch of colors that shouldn't work,
should never work together. Like, what the hell is going on with it? Skull and crossbones on his belt. I mean,
it was like a little pirate belt.
Yeah. As a kid, Skull and Crossbones did it for me. But like, you know, you had even Faker was He-Man, but he was blue. I mean, just I loved Faker. I never had him.
So cool.
He was so cool. But it was also I think what keeps me coming back to it now is, and I didn't really think about it this way until sometime within the last year, but now every time I look through the art of Masters of the Universe book, or the toys of Masters of the Universe book, and I look at the cross-sell art, no other toy line except for kind of Star Wars cross-sell art, the little photographs on the back, but the illustrations on the back of each card in Masters of the Universe, what is that feeling you get from a memory, or from the feeling? It's like a reminder of a feeling you would get when you would look at something as a kid and be super drawn in a very almost physical way. Like it still to this day affects me physically. I look at it and I feel like a tingling sensation in my body. It's crazy. I don't even know how to articulate it other than that. And what I'm saying isn't really how it is. It's like fireworks going off inside my brain. The smell of Stinkor, the smell of Mossman, to this day, when someone walks by me in the grocery store and they're wearing patchouli, or I get in someone's car and it smells like pine, I am like transported. It is like it is time travel. And now going back to what Curtis said, Star Wars. Oh, you mentioned Star Wars, but Masters of the Universe bridged Star Wars and the world of barbarians.
Yeah, it was sci-fi and sword and sorcery mixed in one.
I mean, and I was in love with Star Wars, but here is this like these figures that could exist in a magical realm, but also in a sci-fi realm.
You're fighting with lasers and swords at the same time. Like that shouldn't happen, right?
It should never happen. And I think what we're all saying is like Masters just it's like whack-a-mole, but you have like 10 hammers and you can hit all the moles at the same time. Like it just does all the things.
I know that Filmation isn't everybody's favorite version of Masters of the Universe. People love the mini comics or MYP or whatever. But you've got to give, the whole Filmation team credit for putting out 130 episodes in a 2-year period.
Yeah.
Fully animated, voice work, storylines, character creation, and like they built out this whole universe in a 2-year period. They produced all of that work. Like nowadays, if we get 10 episodes of a cartoon once every 2 years, it's a miracle, right? 130 episodes in a 2-year period is mind-boggling.
Without the technology,
when we've gotten teased with like, a live action movie and stuff. And I'm just thinking, like, there's so much wealth of characters that they built out in that Filmation series that, like, they could tell all these different stories. There's all these characters that haven't been fully realized yet.
Yeah.
To where when we got like the Icons of Evil or stuff, and we got a background story for Trapjaw, and we're like, oh my goodness, like, he didn't always have this metal jaw, and he used to have like an actual arm, and he got into this thing with Skeletor, and oh my God, this adds so much extra to this character. Imagine if they built that out in a live action setting to where you got background stories for these things. We got a movie that was all on cosmic enforcers. I'm signing up, right?
Right.
So yeah, I just think that there's just such a wealth of characters that were created in that 2-year period by Filmation.
Yeah,
that you could totally expand on this forever, and that's really what I would hope for this movie, is that it does well enough that they go, okay, what else do we have there in the source material? I mean, like, MCU didn't start with Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like, they gave us, Iron Man, they gave us Captain America, they gave us this and that, and then they're like, okay, well, you guys are liking that stuff. Let's give you some weird stuff. We're gonna give you Ant-Man. Let's see what you think about that. We're gonna give you Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's what I'm hoping for, is that the main movie does well enough that they go, okay, well, if you like that, let's see if you like this, and then here's a
Malactha mini series on HBO Max,
dude. Basically like an Indiana Jones series of Malactha.
Yes,
amazing, I would absolutely watch that, because I mean, he was the gateway into my favorite episode of Filmation anyway, so why wouldn't I want to watch that?
Yeah, so good. There's a lot of possibilities, like you said, cosmic enforcers, like, a whole movie or series of movies based on adventures that they're experiencing.
Yeah, because there's this whole, like, you're trying to stay neutral and not get involved, but sometimes things get to the point where you do need to get involved. Well, if it gets to the point where you need to get involved, it must be pretty serious, right? Yeah. So those would be cool stories to tell. Like, what escalated to that level that you had to get involved?
So that's what this is. What you're saying is almost exactly what James Gunn was saying in an interview I watched with him recently, talking about the DC universe, about how there are so many possibilities that are exciting that people don't even realize unless they're avid comic book readers. And that's what I thought that's why I think I keep going back to the Guardians movies more than the other Marvel movies, because they are something that I saw in a mini mart, as a kid, and I never grabbed that comic book, Guardians of the Galaxy. It was not interested. Like, what's that?
When they first announced the movie, I'm like, they've lost it. They've lost their mind. Like, this is where they jumped the shark, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, nobody's gonna watch this, right?
Oh, and I was so wrong, because I felt the same way. I thought that's not gonna work. But so there's, I think there, if this movie is done right, the worlds of possibilities are virtually endless. Because you can do so much with all these characters. So yeah, I mean, we keep coming back to this stuff because it's pretty obvious. It's like, it's just good storytelling, great character development, and it's a toy line. Like, that's insane that this has become so spectacular.
Well, and I think the other thing that impressed me so much about the Filmation, not only did they do 130 episodes in 2 years and created all these characters and unique stories, but throughout it, they had a mindset that they wanted to teach kids how to be good people, right? Yeah. Like, not just the moral at the end. A lot of people focus on that part of it, and some people even think that it's corny. But even just like as you watch the episodes, and it's teaching you lessons on how to be a good person, right? Like, it was important to those of us that lived through that, to see these things and go, wow, like I want to be a good person, And
to think, like, all those fundamentalist parents that were so scared that we were watching the satanic panic was very real in the 80s. It's like a skull on a castle, a skull on a villain. Like, well, and we're kids trying to explain, but you know, these guys are doing the right thing, and it's like, you know, but Castle Grayskull is more complicated than just a skull, you know. That's good. I mean, that's good.
I will say, like, one of my earliest moments of opening a figure that I can remember was opening up a Skeletor figure, and I remember like looking at his face. I felt like I probably shouldn't have this. like this feels like it's too adult for me to own.
That's
amazing. Which kind of made it feel even cooler, right?
Yeah.
like this is probably more than what I should be handling right now, but yeah, that makes it cool.
Yeah, I love that. I did. You know, anything with a skull on it made me feel like I was, you know, as entering bad boy territory.
Right.
You know, it still kind of does.
The bad boy.
Yeah, it still kind of does. And, I mean, and it's just so beautiful. I mean, and the skull, it's a skull, but it's red, yellow, green, just beautiful colors. We talked a little bit about this at the beginning, or right before we started, but for me, so much of it is about the color. It's just, God, I mean, just pops. Like all the colors just pop. I think even He-Man, he's the most boring of all the characters as far as color choices go. But the decision to make him the colors that he is, like, is great, you know? The red cross on his chest, and just
I've got to get this out of me, because I've got this intrusive thought that just keeps going through there. I think we've a couple times I've brought up Ant-Man, and I was thinking, you know, along the lines of what Shawn was talking about with, you know, the movie with maybe Adam being kind of this prince out of water and stuff. Can you imagine like Orko doing a Luis from Ant-Man, where he's like telling like a recap story, like where he's hitting all the points, but doing it in like a huge, like a fast fashion to where it like just sounds ridiculous.
Oh man, I would love that. I would love that. And
that would be awesome.
No one said anything about Orko being in this movie, and I think that's the only way that it could really work. If he's not over, if his comic relief is believable. That was one of the problems with the Filmation Orko, is it wasn't believable. It's like it was almost like it's like, Orko, is this a put on? Like, come on, dude.
Like Man-at-Arms will be working on some new technology, and you just know he's gonna screw it up, right? Like, oh, there it is.
It's just a set. Whatever Man-at-Arms is working on is just a setup for Orko,
right?
But I agree. Luis would be a great character to model, or this like new iteration of Orko after. And I think that the actor Griffin Newman, who played Orko, who did the voice for Orko in the Revelation series, would be a great choice for that. I think he didn't get enough screen time. I don't think he got a lot in those 2 seasons, but not enough. He was great.
I think the 2 characters that they handled the best throughout those Kevin Smith ones were Orko and Evelyn. Like their story arcs were so good.
They were great.
I've never cared about Evelyn in pretty much any iteration of Masters. But the way that they now, I feel like they may have gone a little bit overboard at the very. I think they could have stopped at like the bat kind of Evelyn outfit and not gone into the muscular He-Man-esque Evelyn. Like I felt like it was like, okay, they went right up to the line and they stepped over. It's like if you would have just stopped right there, like that super cool like dark bat looking outfit that she had.
Yeah, I got her back here. That's a great design.
Yeah,
it's awesome. But her storyline of going from this kind of sidekick character to stepping up, and then also like you see some goodness in her and stuff. It was just really well done.
Yeah. Well, even when she was Godlin, I kind of thought this, I had moments where I thought this show is bordering on entering some pretty brilliant territory. Contemplation of the universe, the what is really out there. Is this meaningless? The shit she goes through is real shit. Like if any of us were given that kind of power, we'd all feel those feelings. And even though she was, her design was a little funny, I thought that what she went through was really an amazing story arc, and all the discoveries she made along the way about herself and about relevancy. And then she becomes a cosmic enforcer because of all that. I mean, come on. That's like, Evelyn I've always liked Evelyn, so I've always felt that she deserved more. And so I think that's the best thing that series gave us.
It's probably the best redemption tale besides Xanthor. I mean, Xanthor is definitely the best.
Yeah.
I knew we were getting in there somewhere. I knew it.
I'm a huge Xanthor fan, man. They teased him right at the end of that series, man. And if that's all we ever get, I'll be happy. But I would love to get Xanthor in some form or fashion. I just love that, man. Like, this guy, he does something bad. He gets kind of punished for it. And then he wants to make up for it. He goes and helps retrieve the golden disc of knowledge. And, with no promise of any, it's not like they're promising him that he's going to get out early or that, whatever. He just wants to make amends for what he's done wrong. And through that, then Zodak's like, you've proven yourself, you've redeemed yourself, you've turned yourself around. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And he makes him the cosmic enforcer. And that to this day, my favorite cartoon episode of any series.
Yeah. I think he'll have his time.
I hope so. I'd love it.
His time. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Curtis, you are always welcome back. You can pop in anytime you want. Of course, I'm very formal about these things, so I'll probably give you a formal invite. But thank you so much for being here. It was a lot of fun to talk to you. Shawn, it's always great to see you.
Likewise.
So your channel is doing it's kind of exciting right now, Curtis. Your channel is doing great. And
got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on Mondays, I've got this series called How'd They Do That, where I interview an artist from the community and talk to them about, either something they paint or dios or photography or whatever. So that's been a lot of fun because those folks come on and they're willing to share any kind of techniques and tips and tools to help other people get started and stuff. There's no gatekeeping. So that's been a lot of fun.
That's great.
I've started to do these toy reviews that I call exploded figure reviews that I didn't want to just do toy reviews because there's a million reviewers out there that are doing a great job. They do the swaps, they do the comparison, the articulation stuff. And I was like, so if I'm going to do it, like, what can I do that they're not doing? And I was like, I'm going to take every single piece off of this and look at every part of it and talk about it and how it can come apart and what you can do with it. So it's not for everybody, but for customizers, I think there's a lot of value there, and I've gotten some good feedback on those. And then obviously I do some about like different techniques and tools for painting. And then now the travel toy stuff. So it's just been a lot of fun. And lately I've been able to put out quite a bit of content. And it's going well. So
yeah, I'm loving it. Every time I get a chance to tune in, I do. And I'm loving your content. I'm learning a lot about customizing, and you're my go-to person for anything that remember when we were talking about epoxy sculpt, and I was like, I had this idea. I still have this stuff down here. I don't know why I'm so nervous to get started with this, but I love watching it. It's a huge inspiration. So
appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like I'm building up a library of resources for people to go back to and look at, like with the playlist and stuff. So, even if somebody's not customizing today, if they decide to pick it up 6 months from now or something, they can go in and see what kind of paintbrushes should I be using, and you know, how do I thin my paints, and you know, like all that stuff is there, and that's what I was trying to do, because you know, we were in a customizing group and people were talking. They're like, yeah, there's all these resources, but they're in all these different places, and you have to search and try to find them. And a lot of the things that you find for painting are for painting miniatures, not for painting full size action figures. And so I was like, you know what, let's just do a channel that's you can find all of that. So
yeah. That's good. We need it. Thank you for filling that void.
Absolutely.
Shawn, what you got going on?
I'm doing that interview on Saturday, and other than that, just trying to get through my week like always. So
yeah,
I'm sure something will come up one way or the other, but I don't have any crazy plans.
Did you get early tickets for Superman through the Amazon Prime deal?
No, the closest theater from me is like about 40 miles away or more.
Oh, gotcha.
And I'm just like, I'll just go Thursday night, and I'm going to go by myself for that one, because if I'm going to man cry, I'm going to do it by myself. That movie's going to be that effective.
So, we should talk about it afterward, because like I'm really excited to see what they do. So
we
should. You know, if we want to come up with something to talk about it, I'll be there for that, because this is the first I've been feeling giddy about anything entertainment wise in a long time. I mean, come on, man. I bought
well, that's great. Well, actually, this is something that I was thinking about for the next Frenzy episode, which of course is going to be in July. So it'll probably be mid-July. The movie will have come out. We might push the episode toward like late mid-July, so that, you know, if we talk about spoilers, we can just do that and not feel bad. But I mean, Curtis, you're welcome to come on if we end up doing that. All right.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk some Superman. And I'll be honest, like, there's some stuff as I look at the movie where I'm like, you know, I don't know that I would choose on the first movie of this new iteration to include Crypto and Guy Gardner and some of these other things, but I'm open-minded enough to go in there and kind of take it for what it's worth. And I, you know, Shawn and I have had some conversations about this, but you know, I think it's all about how you present Superman. And if you present him as this, you know, hopeful guy that is trying to be an example and do the right things and stuff. If he's somebody that you feel like you can trust in and look up to, I don't really care what the rest of the movie is. Like, that is the heart and soul of the character, and that'll make it for me.
Yeah.
So that last trailer with him and Lois doing the interview. Yeah. And him being interviewed as Superman and stuff, and just the whole people were going to die, and him being so passionate about that. When that happened, I got chills. I'm like, they got him. They figured it out. He cracked the code.
He cares.
James Gunn. There you go. Like, that's beauty.
As opposed to Kryptonians attacking his city and people dying right and left, and him not really being fazed by it.
Yeah.
So
oh my
one
God.
thing I want to say really quick, and then I will completely shut up about this. But okay, I remember sitting in the theater in 2013, and I watched Man of Steel with my mother on one side of me, because she and I have been Superman fans ever since I was a little kid, and my wife on the other side of me. And when all the destruction of Metropolis is happening at the end of that movie, I kept going, he's going to save them from the oil tanker blowing up. He's going to like pull it out of there at the last minute or something. No, he just lets it blow up behind him because it looks cool. And there's all the buildings falling and all this stuff. And, you know, things are raining from the sky. And in a Superman movie, people are looking up in the air and looking scared, which blew my mind. 1 year later, 2014, I'm about to get married, and one of the first things my wife or my future wife and I say, we got to see Guardians of the Galaxy before we go up to Connecticut to go get married. So we sit in the theater for that, and James Gunn movie did one thing that blew my mind so much in one scene, which is when they did the suicide bombers coming down and attacking Xandar. And literally in that scene, Rocket goes, shoot them down before they hit the ground. We got to save the people. I go, a motherfucking raccoon is better than freaking Superman.
Yeah.
And I love him for it.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I was like, James Gunn already knows how to write this. He just put a raccoon in the place of Superman in one movie. He can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%.
So that's the final word on it.
Well, there'll be more. There'll be more in July, folks.
So that's it.
The conversation will continue then.
Beautiful.
For me, not much going on. I'm working on Castle Grayskull again. For those of you that don't know, I built Castle Grayskull right before I started this YouTube channel. It was the thing that made my daughters go, "You should start a YouTube channel and put this out there." Nice. And I was never quite pleased with it, so I'm finally getting around to fixing it and bringing in more Obrero, Alcala, Mark Taylor, trying to bring it to the place and Original Toy, bringing all those elements into it. So I'm working on that this summer as sort of my project, and then all the other fun stuff too. But most importantly,